Now a quick word from our sponsor. I didn't have to look far to be able to find a place to create the podcast. I just use Anchor. It's free. There's creation tools built right into the app to allow you to edit and record your podcast directly from your phone or even your computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you. It'll be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really anywhere that you want to push it to. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. Here at The Average Wrestle Fan, we would love it if you would just go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Again, that's anchor.fm. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Average Wrestle Fan podcast. Today's October 17th, 2019. We've got a great show today. We're going to be reviewing the AEW Dynamite show that just took place yesterday on Wednesday. Stay tuned. Boy, oh boy. What a show we just had, huh? That was a fantastic episode of AEW Dynamite. How y'all doing, everyone? This is Angel at the Average Wrestle Fan podcast. We're going to go over all the matches here in a little bit, but kind of just want to talk first about my overall thoughts on the episode. I think this was another fantastic show. There's a couple spots where you can tell they're going to have a little bit of the growing, but overall, the actual wrestling, the way that they kind of are starting to develop storylines is going great. I think this is a way that we're pushing the industry forward after being stagnant for such a long time. Again, yes, there's some things that could have been better. There's some unfortunate things that happened that we'll go over once we get into the overall review of the show. But it was good, and I think everyone would acknowledge that it was a great show. So we'll go ahead and get into it. We'll start off. The episode started off, obviously, with the promo video comes in, and it's pretty immediate. We go right into the tag team tournament. SCU come on out onto the stage. As they're coming on out, I was excited. You know, if you remember SCU, Scorpio Sky announced the week before that Kaz and Christopher Daniels were going to be the ones taking over the tournament. That experience is what Scorpio Sky says he was happy with to go and represent SCU in the tournament. But as Kaz and Daniels are coming out, the feud from the previous week where the Lucha Bros kind of went out and attacked them, which I don't understand why yet. I think that's something they do need to explain. They come out, they get attacked, right, from behind. So Lucha Brothers come out, they start hitting them. Their music for SCU immediately stops. You get a little bit of boost from the crowd, which is pretty good to see a little bit of heat between the Lucha Brothers, or for the Lucha Brothers. And they just kind of beat them up down the ramp, go down the ramp. Penta, there's a Penta driver on Christopher Daniels by the Lucha Brothers, and it, Daniels hits his head on the ramp. Right before Rey Fenix is about to do the same thing to Kaz, Scorpio Sky comes out and kind of saves it, right? So you've got Scorpio and Kaz that are still okay. The referee determines that Christopher Daniels cannot participate in the match. And also before then, Rey Fenix was pushed into the ring post, hurt his back, and it was kind of an interesting attack segment. I think it's a great way to start the show off with a bang. It's very different. Typically, you'll see promo work or you'll see just a quick start to a match. This was an interesting way to start off. Of course, then they're facing off against Best Friends. Best Friends come out, and they're like looking around like, what the heck is Scorpio doing? Why is he the one in the ring? This probably isn't fair. They, in terms of the business, they studied how to work over Kaz and how to work over Christopher Daniels. They weren't planning for a Scorpio Sky to be out there. A quicker, younger guy. He's a high flyer. Very different match than having Christopher Daniels, who's a fantastic in-ring worker, along with Kaz. So there was kind of a cool little, story to tell that, hey, we weren't ready for this guy. Scorpio's fired up to get the match going. So the best friends basically start off. They are owning the match. They're working over Kaz's back. They do a great job of it throughout, kind of getting a little bit of heat for doing so. They keep him away from ever tagging Scorpio. That's what the whole match is building up to, is Scorpio coming in with a hot tag. Quite a few cool moves outside of the ring. There's some parts down the road or down the middle of the match where right before the break, I think it was, where Kaz is being attacked outside. Scorpio comes around. He gets knocked down. They, I guess, push, or he gets Irish whipped into a spear for the best friends outside of the ring before we go to a commercial break. Just really working over SCU, who aren't ready. They weren't prepared. They hadn't practiced together for this match. So it was really kind of, again, interesting story to tell. The best friends were, although not prepared for Scorpio, were prepared for the match. Really good move overall there. As we move on, obviously there's the hot tag to Scorpio, who does some great high flying. This guy, if there's one thing about AEW I don't appreciate, it's how much they do allow almost every match has those high flying moves. Scorpio is fantastic in the air. He's flying around. He does this full on 360 through the air to knock out the best friends who were outside of the ring after he had gotten back into the match. And it looked beautiful. It was a fantastic move. He gets back in the ring. He had thrown his shoe off at one point, threw off the other shoe. And it looked really cool. Everything he was doing was really in line with how he should be reacting to having seen his friend be, hurt, basically. Christopher Daniels, his teammate. Eventually, kind of, it goes into a big pile driver. Scorpio does mess up, unfortunately, a little bit on the ending. And you can see it bothered him after the match. He was a little bothered. He's like, man, I really missed that spot. It sucks that I missed kicking him in the head, is what it was. It was a kick. It was like a drop kick to the head with a pile driver, and he kind of missed the spot. But I think Tony Schiavone kind of just mentioned it. He passed it off as, he's thinking about Christopher Daniels. So it was well told little piece. So SCU, of course, get the 1, 2, 3 after that pile driver drop kick and move on in the tournament. I think it's interesting that they're the ones moving on because of what's going on with the other matches. So you're going to have, SCU and Private Party, I believe. Or no. SCU versus someone who wins later on in the next match. Going against each other. SCU versus Dark Order. I think that's what it is. I'll verify that later, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. The next match is a quick squash match. You've got Santana and Ortiz, of course, Inner Circle, going up against some jobbers that I think their names were Silver and Reynolds, I think is what their names are. I'm not familiar with them, so don't quote me on who they are, where they're from. I'll definitely have to kind of get to learn about them some more. Hopefully they get presented more. They seem to have a cool little gimmick to them. Of course, they weren't told. It was a very quick match. Santana starts the match against, I think it was Silver, just kind of destroying him, honestly. There's a funny little spot. Silver kicks Santana. Santana kicks back, knocks the guy over. They had been showing off muscles and stuff. It was really kind of a cool little spot. I think it was Santana. The one problem I have, and I made a note here just before I get to how the match finishes, Inner Circle group is getting cheered. I think everyone loves the idea of the group, and as far as in the arenas, and it's a problem. I think I really would like to see the the heel group, they're bad. They're the bad dudes. You're not supposed to like them. They do bad things to win. All that kind of stuff. But they're all getting cheered because it is a cool little gimmick. It is cool to see this group together. And Santana and Ortiz, from everything that I've heard, their previous gimmick of LAX was really good. So it's a problem, I think, but hopefully they're going to get it over as being bad, because that's really what you want to see. After kind of a little bit of back and forth, Santana and Ortiz had knocked down the other guy, Reynolds, I think, and they do what's called a street sweeper. It's kind of like Santana holds the guy up. Ortiz does like a flip over with a neck breaker. They call it a street sweeper. It's a cool little tag team move that gets the 1, 2, 3 for the win. So a cool match, again, showing off the power of the Inner Circle. After the match, the guys are leaving. Santana and Ortiz are leaving out the stage, and they point towards the Titantron, or whatever you want to call it, the big screen. And Jericho is the one who starts to cut a promo for the group. That's, again, the AEW is leaning towards their talent. I think that's fantastic. He cuts an amazing promo about how great Santana and Ortiz are, and calls out Nick and Matt Jackson. He says specifically, Nick and Matt Jackson at Full Gear against the dog, the pit bulls, Santana and Ortiz. Very interesting. I think it's a very interesting match to push. They're going right to it, right? Inner Circle versus kind of that, the elite. It's going to be good. It's their very first pay-per-view during TV. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good match. Of course, Young Bucks were announced for the following week. And I think that they'll have a squash match too, to kind of put themselves over a little bit more, to kind of build them back up after losing to Private Party the week before. And, obviously I'm sure they're going to accept it, and it'll be Young Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz in 2-3 weeks. It should be a good match, I definitely want to see Santana and Ortiz do more in-ring work, but they did a great job. I'd love to know if anyone else feels any differently. Feel free to leave a comment here on Anchor, or within the Twitter sphere, or however you're listening to this podcast, here on YouTube as well. That's Average Wrestle Fan on YouTube. To leave some comments. I'm going to post this also on there. After that, we get a really cool Cody Rhodes promo. It kind of cuts to him sitting down thinking. Brandy comes around. She starts asking about, stuff for the following weeks, what he's, going over the itinerary, and then it kind of just bleeds out where you don't hear her voice and there's music going. It's pretending basically like Cody's just so out of it that he's not really listening. He's just going through the motions. I think it's a cool little story, to show that, I want to prove how great I am, that he's just losing himself within the moments. Again, kind of a really good promo. This is probably the best promo work that I've seen AEW do for preparing for a match. You got DDP in there, MJF, JR, all that kind of stuff. JR is talking about how much Cody's got on his plate, whereas Jericho's just going to be focused on the match. The family legacy, of course, which they had announced. I think it was on Twitter where they posted the photo, gorilla position, or not the gorilla, I guess the ready position for the wrestlers. They've renamed it to the Dusty Rhodes position, right? It's all about family in this company is what it seems like. And, you can kind of see that in the work they're doing. I think it's really cool to see. For the family legacy, obviously they're putting over that he needs to be more focused as a wrestler than the executive vice president of the company. So it's a good little promo. I definitely suggest you watch it. I'm sure they've got it on one of their many YouTube channels. It's definitely on their Twitter if you didn't watch it. Next, what do we got here? Britt Baker, DMD, versus Riho, a title match. One of the first two of the night. This match, I think, shows what AEW has some problems with. Women's wrestling so far has been hit or miss. You've got some fantastic wrestlers who just aren't clicking, right? And I'll go over why I think that here in the match. Overall, they got the match over, which that's not the first time it's happened, right? Obviously, Riho got the match against Nyla Rose over. Riho and Britt do the same thing here. Very poor early start. It's very sad to see, honestly. It's because, again, like I said, it's not the first time it's happened within the women's wrestling matches. And I don't expect it to be that great, knowing that a lot of women's talent is in WWE. In New Japan now just announced a deal with Stardom Wrestling over in Japan, Impact, and all those other promotions. Not to go too far into a tangent, but a lot of the better women's wrestlers are going to be in those different groups. Obviously, mainly WWE. So it's kind of sad to see, and I didn't expect too much, but I do want to see more growth in terms of starting. And I wonder how much of it has to do with communication, because obviously the big match was Riho and Nyla. Riho, obviously, I don't know how much English she speaks, but I wonder if that affects some of the moves, because you could see sometimes where Britt, in this match particular, Britt's going towards a move. And I think there's going to be a communication part where, normally you'd sneak a word in or something like that. And Riho didn't get the message, I suppose. And she starts to go towards one thing when Britt's trying to go to another thing. Specifically, there was a part where Britt teased doing her little, lockjaw, I think is the name of the move. She went to go do it, but Riho was turned around the wrong way. Britt tries to pull her back. Then she turns too far the other way. They get up, they do a little bit of, kind of faking out. Then they go to the spot. Riho gets out of it with a, touching her foot to the ropes. So it's, some back and forth. The match eventually starts getting over. You see a big swinging neck breaker by Britt, a big super kick after a bunch of small package attempts by Riho. The crowd's really starting to wake up. Riho's doing her little thing where she's got, this is one way to try to pin you. This is a second way. It was real cool to see all the different ways she gets into these little packages, package pins, right? Crucifix ones, all those different pins. But I don't know how I'm going to get over this. I cannot believe how many times Riho tries to do a pickup slam. It's funny to see she's trying to do these moves, and it's like, we know you can't do them. We know they're clearly for just some spot that's about to happen. I wish there's a way that they can work around that, and that might just be something that Riho's going to be learning. I think a lot of the Japanese wrestlers are smaller. It's probably easier for her to do that over in Japan, in Stardom, compared to what they're doing here. There's a lot of bigger women in AEW. It might be a problem that they're going to have to grow on and improve upon. Okay, but then after that, right, we've got a single leg crab where the big twist is almost like an ankle lock mixed with a single leg crab. It was really a cool looking submission spot. I really thought Britt might tap out there as a way to kind of show some power that Riho, right, she's won with all these little packages. Let's see something different. I thought Britt was in a tap. It was very cool to see. Then she goes outside the ring. What was it? Britt probably broke it up with grabbing a rope, and very almost immediately, as quick as I almost missed it, that Riho got right to the top of the rope, does a big, huge stomp to the back of Britt Baker. She goes for the pin, but Britt, comes alive, so to speak, applies a lockjaw. She's trying to get the mouth of Riho open. Riho's refusing to do it. Britt moves her other arm, her left arm, which was normally used to hold the other arm of Riho. She moves it to go grab her hair. And when she does this, it allows Riho to get loose a little bit, enough to turn around, pull her into a almost crucifix type pin for the 1, 2, 3. Fantastic little finish. It really kind of shows that Britt is young in the game compared to Riho, and the announcement team put that over too. They said, Riho, this really shows her in-ring knowledge. That's the years of experience, despite her being young, to realize that her opponent made a small mistake, enough of a mistake to go for the 1-2-3. Fantastic finish. Again, sorry that it built up slow, but it was cool to see how they were able to get the match over. A shake of the hands at the end, both baby faces. Putting over that Brit will have another chance probably eventually to get the title. But it probably won't be for a little while. She's, lost a couple matches now. I think it's time that we settle her down, get her in her feud with Bea Priestley, and go that route for everything. So hopefully so far you're enjoying this little description. If there's anything, like I said, that you've noticed that you might want some improvement upon, or if you have any thoughts so far, definitely, again, leave that in the comment section. We've got the YouTube and the Anchor comment section. I'm not quite sure that Spotify does. Again, I'm kind of new to this game. Don't know how Spotify comments work, but search for it on YouTube, Average Wrestle Fan on YouTube, or on anchor.fm/Average Wrestle Fan. Okay, so next we got a little update on Christopher Daniels. They just say that he's got a little bit of a stinger, kind of a quick neck tweak. I don't know how else you really want to say it. It's a stinger, right? But that he'll be okay, which is good to hear. I didn't think legitimately he had got hurt. I did talk to a couple of people who noticed the X by the referee, but I think that was too obvious of an X, like that quick finish type thing that referees do to let medical staff know to come on out. We really need you. That it's a serious injury. I think it was too obvious of one to have been legitimate. Of course, at this point in time, I haven't seen anything or heard anything about it to know anything different for it. So for now, I'm going to take a little bit of a break here. We're going to have a little bit of a kind of some other kind of thoughts here, get a little bit of music going for you. So we will be right back. Hey everyone, just wanted to give y'all a quick update on what we're doing here at Average Wrestle Fan. We have uploaded our very first video to YouTube, so when you do search Average Wrestle Fan, it'll pop up as the very first option. You'll see our logo, the crowd with Average Wrestle Fan across it, and we've got already a first video up there. Really just our first podcast. It's a still video, or still image, with the podcast on it. We do plan on uploading a video with my face and with a few other discussion topics this weekend. Again, I love it if you go to Average Wrestle Fan on YouTube, give a subscribe on there, and let's continue the show. Thank you for staying tuned. All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. We're on to the last half, the last three matches is what we have left to go over. So, of course, the big news, I think one of the biggest news. One of the big pieces of news to come out of this show was the fact that Jurassic Express, they come out and there's no Luchasaurus. They didn't really announce during the show, but come to find out later that Luchasaurus is legitimately hurt. He will be out for quite a few months, it seems. He was very over. I will tell you from the first show, the dark matches, but before and after every match, there would be a start of a Luchasaurus chant. Not Jurassic Express, not Jungle Boy. It was Luchasaurus every single time. He actually did tear his hamstring, though, so he will be out for quite a few months. So we had Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy come out. Now, I'll be honest. I do not really like the Marco Stunt character. The guy I have the utmost respect for. I couldn't do what he does. Wouldn't even try. But when I'm watching a group, I really don't want a little guy and a littler guy to be a team. I just feel like it's just too much of a underdog story. For me personally, I think there's other people out there that get it, that like it, that enjoy it. But it's just not for me. It's not my taste. So I wasn't looking forward to the match when I saw that was what was happening. And we'll go into the rest of the match here shortly. As they're coming out, though, you did see that Private Party was at ringside, kind of watching the match, kind of, spectating, kind of, again, building that tag tournament feel, like these guys really care about what's happening in the tournament. It's really cool to see. And then Lucha Brothers come out, massive pop. These guys are just so over. They are undeniably, I think they're my favorite tag team in AEW. I put them above our guys, the Young Bucks. I love the Lucha Brothers. Unfortunately, I don't know that they're going to win the tournament. But if it was me, those are my guys. That would be my pick in a real world scenario here. So there's a kind of opening segment. Marco Stunt's in the ring. This little guy, he's taking on Pentagon. Pentagon's going to town on him at first. A couple little moves. Marco then comes in, does some stuff. Then there was a spot where I was got into the match. I really got into it. Marco is picked up by Jungle Boy, who it's obvious that they have to do this kind of stuff. And at first I was like, oh God, they're already starting this kind of moves. But Jungle Boy picks him up, throws Marco onto Pentagon. Marco does some cool little, whips around, stuff like that. Pentagon then grabs him as he's mid-turn, throws him onto Rey Fenix, and he does this massive DDT, and it's like an accident. It's a really cool little spot to see, and it kind of got me into the match. I just wanted to mention that part, as that's what drew me in. Seeing this little guy do all that stuff because of what the other wrestlers were able to present. Really cool little spot. Then the match, to me, really got going, like I said, and I have to mention that you cannot really go into a Lucha Brothers match without mentioning how amazing Rey Fenix is. This guy, to me, shows off. At first, you look at the guys, you see Pentagon with all the uniform. He's got like the cool outfit, the face paint is on point. He's got the kind of more over the top mask. Rey Fenix is wearing some tights, and he's wearing the mask, and he's shirtless. Doesn't look too he doesn't look overly massive, but the guy can wrestle his ass off, man. It's really, really cool to see some of the stuff he does. He does this enziguri into an arm drag after doing maybe 3 or 4 moves on the second rope to jump to the top rope, to then enziguri Marco Stunt, pull down Jungle Boy with the arm drag. It was really amazing move to see. Both of the guys, obviously, they have some of the loudest chops that I've heard, and the crowd loves it. The crowd gets silent for it, and then you just hear the massive, just a hit, and it just, every hit, I was like, oh my God. It sounded like it hurt. Obviously it does too. Even in fact, if you go to Instagram, I think it was Sammy Guevara posted it. He posted a picture of Marco Stunt after. His whole chest is massively red. You can see the hands. That stuff looks like it sounds like it hurts. So it's really cool little spots that those guys do. And, I'd hate to be on the receiving end of it. Of course, the whole match, though, the guys are working over Marco Stunt. There's a little bit of offense by Jungle Boy, who tags back out. Pentagon, later in the match, does this really cool near fall. It was like a single arm pile driver combination thing. I don't know how to describe it. Anytime you talk about a Lucha Brothers match, you need to go see it. If you have not watched this match, there's 2 specific matches I would say everyone needs to watch from this show. The Lucha Brothers match, just to see if you can enjoy Marco Stunt, number 1. Number 2, to just enjoy anything that the Lucha Brothers have come up with. I've not seen one match where these guys are using the same exact spots, outside of obviously some of the in-ring stuff that they do to get the crowd going with the Cero Miedo and all that stuff. But it was a beautiful little single arm driver. Jungle Boy has a hot tag, um, along with the same time as Ray Phoenix to come into the match for the kind of the ending. There's a Penta driver at the end on Marco Stunt as Ray Phoenix dives outside of the ring to keep Jungle Boy from actually entering to interfere with the 1-2-3 to finish the match. So Jungle Jurassic Express is out. Lucha Brothers advance in the tournament. Very cool match. Definitely go watch it if you have the time. Then we get into what I will say is the second match that you have to watch from this episode of All Elite Wrestling Dynamite. We've got Moxley and Pac, the Bastard Pac, versus Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. As I'm watching this, I almost forgot to take notes for this match. I was watching the whole thing and I was just like, this is insane that this is not even the main event. This is just a match that's before then. These four guys, I think these are three of the top 5, maybe 6 wrestlers in the company, and they're in a tag match against each other. The fact that they could tell the story to get this match is really cool. And it actually makes sense. It's not just, hey, let's tag up to try and take on the other tag team champions. No, this is a legit, these guys don't like each other. They're not teaming up for the sake, as far as Moxley and Pac. They're not teaming up because they like each other, teaming up because they want to beat up these other dudes. So it's really cool to see. The one negative, the only negative I have of the match is someone needs to get Pac a new entrance theme ASAP. The guy comes out, there's no pop for him, positive or negative, because his theme is not that good. I don't even know what it is. I'm sure he's been using it for a little while, but we need to get a lot of the guys some new entrance themes. We need to pay some money. Tony Khan, I'm sure his thought about it. There's a couple of guys that have themes that are immediately recognizable and you get the pops, and it makes a difference. It does make a difference. I think Pac is someone who definitely deserves a good one. So before the match starts, though, you've got a Moxley promo talking about how Kenny Omega basically just doesn't want to fight him, shouldn't be wanting to fight him. He's not ready for him, all that kind of stuff, that his mind's not right. A good little promo. Again, it was probably the second, maybe third promo of the night that's putting something forward. I do wish there was, maybe if you shave off maybe like a minute of the women's match and, a minute here, there are some of these other matches, maybe 2 minutes from the women's match. There's some time there for some other kind of promo work, but I like that it's all staying within the arena. I think there does need to be a little bit more storytelling outside of the ring, because the in-ring storytelling is fantastic, but a little bit more outside, and I think we'd have a perfect show overall. There's just a bunch of back and forth. So into the match, a bunch of back and forth wrestling between everyone. You've got, Moxley and Pac, fighting the guys, fighting Page. Nobody really wants to tag in or tag out. They're being force tag, right? Like, you go to a corner to work over your opponent, and then all of a sudden Moxley tags himself in on Pac, and Pac's just like, what the heck? I didn't want to tag out. He gets outside the ring though because he has to, right? Very little teamwork at the start of the match, and then you see them kind of develop a working relationship because they want to win. So it was really cool little match. You've got a lot of high spots. You must go see this match. I can't really describe much else than saying you need to go see it. There's so much cool stuff. In fact, I'll get right to the ending. Again, probably one of the other talking points of the show from the wrestling standpoint. Moxley and Omega get into the ring at one point, and they go head to head, just facing each other. Kind of that, that barking dog mentality, put each other's foreheads on each other, and they start just, yapping at each other. They go outside the ring. Really cool spot. Mox goes under the ring, pulls out the bat with the barbed wire wrapped around it. The crowd goes nuts. Kenny pulls out the broom, the cleaner thing with the barbed wire on it also. At first I'm thinking, this is stupid. They're going to get disqualified. what are these idiots thinking? Like, you don't want to lose the match, and Hangman obviously hadn't seen it. And they get into the ring with each other. The referee's like, don't do it, don't do it. Mox like fakes like he's gonna hit the ref. The ref steps out the ring. I think he's getting ready to call for a DQ, like a no contest or something. I'm like, I don't want this match to end that way. And then Pac jumps in, grabs the thing away from Moxley, throws it outside the ring. He cuts his hand, like that's legit barbed wire. Cuts his finger, I think, on it. Starts yelling at Moxley how dumb he is. Think about it. We don't want to get disqualified. I don't want a loss, making it about himself. I don't want to have a loss on my record. Again, it's a callback. A beautiful, beautiful callback to what he was talking about on the announcement table the week before. I don't have a loss on my record. I deserve the title shot, not these other people. Right? So it's a beautiful callback to that. Moxley just doesn't care, gives him the two birds in the face, gives him the, what are they calling it? It's a DDT, whatever he calls it, the paradigm shift. There we go. Gives Pac the paradigm shift, walks as fast as I've ever seen someone walk outside of the ring, gets out, walks all the way through the entrance ramps, leaves the arena basically. Kenny and Hangman look at each other like, well, okay, this guy's down. He's out for the count. I kind of do like, real side note, I do like how Pac basically no-sold it. He kind of gets staggers a little bit to get back up. It's kind of funny. Kind of shows, I don't know how, I wish he had stayed on the ground a little bit longer. But, either way, he comes out. Hangman, Omega goes for a massive V trigger. Pac bounces off of the second rope, kind of stands up, turns around to a buckshot lariat from Hangman. Hangman does a dead eye for the 1, 2, 3. Great win for these guys. For Omega and Hangman. It does also show that Pac isn't a slouch. Pac is only reason he lost that match, in my opinion, because I think they had the match going. Only reason they lost it, I think, is because of the fact that Moxley just doesn't care. He's a renegade. Not a good guy. I'm not a bad guy. I'm just my guy. And then coming back from the commercial break, we get the announcement: Jon Moxley versus the Bastard Pac for next week. Not a pay-per-view match. They're putting this match on TV. It blows my mind. Again, I hope, I love it while it's happening, but I don't want it to get to the point where they go through all these dream matches so quickly. But if it's going to happen, I'm going to enjoy it. Okay. I'm sure every one of y'all is going to also. So it's a hype match. I'm definitely excited for it for next week. Now we're coming to the last part of the show. We're going to have the main event talk. I definitely want if I can get some comments on it. What did you think of this main event? The only problem I have with it is when they're doing the announcing of the match. It's Darby Allin versus Chris Jericho, by the way. When they're doing the announcements, they said it's a street fight. On TV, we heard it's a Philadelphia street fight where there are rope breaks. There are a little bit of some different types of rules for the street fight. The crowd in the arena did not hear it. And I think there was a moment where this is a learning moment. AEW can say, this is something that can happen. You do have rope breaks. This is a street fight. And then you start the announcement. Here's Chris Jericho. Here's Darby Allin. I think they'll do it next time because the crowd there was a massive point. I'll get into the match. So Jericho comes out, obviously, as his Painmaker outfit after Darby had come out. Darby's got Darby Allin champion written on his skateboard on the underside. His normal bone, a skeleton face has got champ written all over, up and down his body and up into his face. Just champ, kind of trying to get into the mind of Jericho. Jericho did the same thing with the Painmaker outfit. So the match is going. Jericho's working over as kind of this brute, right? A big dude who's got the smarts, intelligence of ways to submit and things like that. Working over Darby Allin, and then he's got him in a submission. I guess it's a not a Boston Crab. He's got him in Walls of Jericho at one point or some other move, and Darby Allin grabs the rope, and Aubrey says, "Hey, he's on the ropes. 1, 2," and the crowd goes, "Huh?" Like you could tell the crowd would be like, "Wait, what?" Like it kind of got silent for a second, and the crowd didn't understand it. And even me, even though I heard it, I said, "Wait, it's a street fight. Why is there rope breaks?" So the crowd obviously started to kind of be like, "Oh, what's going on? I think they're messing up again." And then the match continues. The crowd starts chanting at one point after this that it's a street fight. It's a street fight. And it really kind of kills the momentum the match had because, after that, or that was later, right? So Jericho had been put him into a super deep walls. Like the guy was practically sitting on this dude. Any further back, he would have been off his feet. And then Darby had grabbed the rope. That's when the street fight kind of came into play. So the whole story, though, was that he kept using his arms to get out of these maneuvers. So Jericho goes into the ring, grabs grabs some tape, basically, wraps up Darby Allin's hands to say, I've got you now. I've got it figured out. You cannot get out of these submissions now because your hands are tied. Really cool idea. The way they got there, I wish the crowd had known what we knew. I really do, because it would have really put the match over a little bit more. Then really Darby kind of shows off. Jericho slips up a little bit, and at one point, Darby Allin does this really awesome move. Even Jericho put it over on Twitter. Darby Allin does this, like, no hands, obviously, lion salt off of the second rope into the lion salt, gets Jericho almost like a crossbody lion salt. It was really a cool move. And then Jericho kind of goes outside the ring afterward, or there's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Jericho kicks out, rolls outside of the ring to kind of gather himself. Darby Allin, again with no hands, does this big tope suicida outside of the ring. This guy, I was just thinking to myself, this guy's so nuts. So nuts. Gets in the ring. Jericho kind of works him over a little bit. Grabs his skateboard. Puts it down. Does a massive power bomb onto it. And I was like, okay, Jericho's going to start running the show now. He does, pretty much. Darby gets a small advantage, kind of knocks over Jericho. He's going for the move. He gets up to the top rope, again with no hands. Gets up to the top rope to do his coffin drop. And then from great camera work, you did not see it coming. You thought something was going to happen because the way Aubrey was covering on top of Jericho. I just thought that he was going to look back, see that she was in the way. Jericho was going to use that to his advantage. I thought Darby was going to jump off into a Judas effect. But no. What happens? Jake Hagar, from out of nowhere, a solid punch to the face, basically, to Darby, knocks him out. And Chris Jericho takes advantage, obviously. Obviously, Aubrey hadn't seen it because Jericho was talking to her. And he goes into another deep, massive Walls of Jericho. Like, it was a deep sit again. Without his hands, Darby really can't get out of it. So he taps out, or, he claims, I'm out. I can't go further now. And Jericho wins. Jericho retains the title. Great story, great match. I had a lot to say about it, as you can tell. And then probably this is the third week in a row that it ends with the Inner Circle coming out, going to the middle of the ring. They're on top. These guys are on top of the company. Inner Circle comes out with a bunch of champagne. You got You've got your Santana and Ortiz. Hagar is already there. Sammy Guevara comes out. They all just start shaking up the champagne, celebrating with a little bit of the bubbly. And that's what the show ends on. Again, I have one slight problem with this. The crowd is cheering their butts off. They initially booed Hagar for interfering, but let's be honest. We knew Jericho was going to win. Inner Circle comes out with the champagne, the little bit of the bubbly. The crowd's loving it. They're cheering this group that we're supposed to be booing. They're going to fix it. I'm sure of it. They're going to have to. But for any kind of average people that aren't, that's even more average than us, the simple wrestling fans, let's call it, they're confused why we're cheering these guys. What's so good about these people? I think that's something that they're going to have to fix. So that's the conclusion. That's the show. I'm very excited for next week. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this so far. We're going to have our kind of closing segment here. Please, again, find us on YouTube, Average Wrestle Fan. Find us on Anchor, anchor.fm/Average Wrestle Fan, and on Spotify. This has been Angel with the Average Wrestle Fan. We're out. See you next week.